Catch up on previous parts by clicking the playlist, linked in the description. Yomi was confused by Iana's challenge, considering he was doing all this for her, but she insisted she wouldn't budge from her spot, even if he were to cut her down. Really though, the sword was just too heavy that she couldn't move. There was no certainty Yomi wouldn't attack her, so it was all or nothing. Iana urged him to come at her, while hoping on the inside that he actually wouldn't do it. But Yomi would throw down his sword, unable to attack her, and she felt guilty for trampling all over his efforts. Since there was no point in the duel anymore, Jennifer asked Yomi to explain the events to them. Sol didn't mind his own injuries, but was more concerned about Konoha. Even though she didn't mind, he asked her to value herself more because she was too kind to others. Suddenly, Iana grabbed Yomi by the head and slammed it to the ground while she bowed, apologizing for all that had happened. She explained that this was all a misunderstanding, that Yomi was doing this for her after hearing rumors of Konoha tyrannizing her. She doubted this explanation would work, but all she could do was apologize. With a frightening stare, Jennifer asked if she was done. However, she continued apologizing while slamming Yomi's head. Surprisingly, Jennifer would kneel, apologizing to her for misreading her true nature. He assumed Yomi must have heard of the way he ostracized her, and for this, he took some of the blame. With this, Sol also decided not to speak on the matter any further. He was the person who could become a demon for Konoha's sake, and he asked Iana to refrain from any misleading behavior henceforth. His icy gaze froze her on the spot. Jennifer then carried Konoha to go have her wounds treated. He offered to carry Iana to get treated after, which made her heart race. But she decided to go with Yomi instead. Although Yomi wasn't convinced yet, she was happy to have made it out of the situation. Her body suddenly felt heavy, and she slowly slipped out of consciousness. Her mind would recall those days when she usually overworked herself before reincarnated into her story. When she came to, Yomi's charming face was right in front of her. Flustered, she tried to get up, but he told her to remain in bed, and noticed she still had a fever. The doctor had said that strain and fever were likely the cause of her passing out, and she slept through the entire night. Seeing that it was morning, Iana felt the urge to rush to the office. She was stressing over meetings, unemployment, and BL games, which she might not be able to afford if she didn't work. Due to her terrible state, Yomi couldn't accept the fact that she had willingly apologized to Konoha. That's when Konoha rushed into the room, embracing her sister warmly and trying to make sure she was alright. Iana was purified by her pure energy, recalling that this wasn't Japan. Iana assumed she was probably acting like a corporate slave because she still had memories of her past life. Yomi asked Konoha to control herself, questioning why she was interrogating Iana, who hadn't fully recovered. He tossed her out of the room, refusing to let any more visitors inside. Iana feared Yomi would cause more trouble since he hadn't been fully convinced yet. He now assumed Konoha was secretly forcing Iana to work and give her money to buy a BL game thing. But he was totally wrong. Yomi's assumptions were only making things worse, and she definitely didn't want any help he was offering. Iana couldn't believe she spoke of something so exalted even while being half asleep. In her past life, she had a taste for both Ultimate BL and GL, so they served as fuel for her imagination. However, it seems she never grew out of her obsession. Yomi decided to go confront Konoha, threatening to kill her if she was exploiting Iana. But she stopped him immediately. She knew he would never fall in love with Konoha and wouldn't stop trying to kill her. This is why she needed to convince him here and now, but she had no idea what to do. No matter how many times she told him he was wrong, Yomi didn't believe her, and he never listened. Giving him a scary glare, Yomi was flush. Then, she recalled the one time he actually backed down, which made her certain that he couldn't defy an assertive Iana. If Iana wanted Yomi to obey, the only way was to unleash her villainous persona. Talking down to him, she told him that she was enjoying a little game of playing the role of an agreeable little sister in order to gain everyone's trust. And when they'd trust her, she would send them to hell. She mocked Yomi for not getting the hint, making it clear that there was nothing he could do for her. Iana would ask him to be a good little boy and feign obedience like she was. Unable to resist her, he responded like a good dog. A few minutes later, Yomi expressed how glad he was to hear what Iana was thinking, and promised to never run off and do things on his own anymore. He then decided to go apologize to Konoha for kicking her out, and make some chit-chat about random topics, completely taking the whole thing overboard. Iana thought things would be fine now, but she was still slightly worried. Feeling exhausted, she decided to take a nap. Waking up this time, she was met by Jennifer's shining aura. Her brain totally shut down. He was definitely the spinning image of a hero. She assured him that she was feeling much better than the previous night, and asked if he wouldn't rather be with Konoha, but he answered that he wanted to be alone with her instead. Around this time last year, he had some business with Iana, so he was going to her room, but the wind was strong that day. He had to turn down an offer to be considered for marriage, and wanted to apologize to her. However, Iana completely ignored him, turning him away at the door, and he was thrown out over and over. With no other recourse, he stood below the window, calling out to her, but to the very last, she refused to come out. So he reluctantly gave up and left. And as soon as he did, Iana appeared at a party and began bullying Konoha. Jinifred believed she did all this to shield them from her uncle. Although he had apologized before, he still wanted to tell her something privately. He embraced her with his forehead touching hers and thanked her. Iana was left speechless. Then she remembered this was a piece of lore from her book. In this world, a sick person's temperature was taken by touching foreheads together. In the Rose Kingdom, it was called foreheading. Back then, she loved the name she came up with and wanted to see lovey-dovey nursing events. So she used to make the heroine in the games she played catch a cold on purpose. But Iana could barely handle the real thing now. She was flushed with too much blood rushing to her face. Jinifred worried about her and decided to stay with her, offering to read her a book till she calmed down. But this only made her feel more embarrassed. In her past life, she got teased for not having a boyfriend. She'd argued that she had a fiancé in another world. She put a lot of her fantasies into Jinifred. Even her mother could feel the ominous aura emanating from her room. When the real Konoha stepped out to get some pudding, her mother would reach for her book, shocked to see Jinifred again. Real Konoha always fantasized different scenarios with him. Jinifred was always her ideal. She absorbed all the knowledge she could and slowly perfected his form. The first generation was just a hot-headed guy with a bandana. The second was a kind champion of justice who always had the same pose. And eventually, his final form, the perfect Jinifred, was born. The way he read the book to her so stiffly with different voices made her laugh. Here's my demonstration so you understand. Book reading long ago. There was a very fat little piggy. "Stop it! I don't want to be eaten!" said the little piggy. He was so funny. He was exactly the person Iana thought he'd be. This reaffirmed her own preferences. After he left, Sol came in next, bringing her medicine. The way he asked if she liked the bitterness of medicine made her think this was an assassination attempt. Scared for her life, she tried running away, but he stopped, asking Iana to return to bed immediately. Sol wanted to check her temperature, but she feared this might be another death flag. So, she dodged all his attempts at foreheading. She claimed she was alright, but Sol decided he would never let her around duels again. He knew she was a risk taker, but didn't take her to be so foolhardy. He then held her hand, which was hurting. When she collapsed, it was also hot in the same spot he touched. It was obvious to him that Iana didn't usually hold swords, but if she hadn't stepped in, he would have been killed. She wanted to take responsibility for his left arm that got injured when he saved her from falling off the roof. But he didn't see any reason for that. Sol only saw himself as a servant, whose duty was to protect his master. He pressed her against the bed, telling her if she were to never wake again, he would have spent his whole life in regret. The moment ended quickly when Sol heard voices at the door. Meanwhile, Iana assumed Sol was saying that he wanted to kill her with his own two hands. As she went to get the door for her sister, Sol would pull her back, whispering his thanks into her ear and leaving her stunned. When the others entered, he let them know Iana's fever had subsided, but teased she was still a bit warm. These were all the characters she had created, so she didn't understand why she had to be on guard all the time. She should have been able to read Yomi, Jinifred, and Sol, but her heart wasn't prepared at all. They set it racing without trying, and pushed right past the sight of them that she knew. The following day, Iana realized she couldn't let the death flags get her. For that reason, forgetting the story's world building was inexcusable. However, this incident had taught her something. Seeing a nursing event through the heroine's point of view protected her heart. When she thought about Jinifred tending to Konoha, she got heart pangs, just like she should. The heroine was basically her self-insert, and she didn't want to see her real self from an objective point of view. She tried to keep a tight rein on her heart. Jinifred would enter the room, mocking the way her hair looked. Sol then informed them that Konoha was asking for them, and seeing Sol, Iana tried to remain calm. When he wanted to approach her, Yomi came running to her, but she quickly commanded him to stay. He asked if he could stay longer because for some reason, an avalanche had blocked the road, making him unable to return home. This would mean she'd have to play the villainess a lot more for him, regardless of what she actually wanted. She was definitely bound to collapse again. Alright, I guess it would make sense that Yomi would like a dominating woman, but the death flags aren't over. Next week, they're introducing another pretty boy to the mix. Subscribe to keep up, but for now, watch this next video. It's me, ComfyTea. I'll see you all in the next one.